Who is James Topp? This question became the top trending hashtag of late June 2022, drawing national attention just weeks before his arrival in Canada's capital. James Topp is a Canadian soldier who spoke out against government mandates and announced his intent to march to Ottawa in protest. On February 20th, James departed Vancouver, British Columbia on foot, beginning a march of 4,293 kilometers spanning 131 days, ending at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Ottawa. Along his journey, people from across Canada and fellow veterans would join him in his efforts and became the Canada Marches team. Our film crew first interviewed James Topp while traveling to Saskatchewan, and were also present for the final leg of his march and his arrival at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Now in phase 2 of the team's march, starting at Signal Hill, Newfoundland on July 17th, and marching back to Ontario, our crew traveled to Quebec to interview James and the team a second time. Okay, well, we're back for round 2. Thanks for having me again. You know what, I'm going to start this out. I was there when you finally arrived in Ottawa. How did you feel at that moment? Like, that must have been an intense day.
Yeah, it was overwhelming. It was the psychological, physical stress and strain of it all, I think, and then the relief too, and the kind of, having the... There was just this mix of emotions that I think was, it's hard to put into words. Like, it was, ultimately, what I experienced, I think, was this coming together of all those emotions, and just kind of let it out real quick. And God bless you, James. Had a chat with the folks, and that was it.
Did you guys expect to have the size of the group that you had there?
Yeah, I think it was kind of, we were prepared for a few to show up, and maybe a couple, 100.
Unreal. I don't even know how many people that... I can't even begin to guess.
But I think ultimately it more or less met or exceeded our expectations, yeah.
Once you got back, you guys took about 2 weeks, and then you were off to the East Coast. So what led you to that decision that you had to continue?
Yeah, I think it was the messages that we were hearing and reading between the lines when it came to things like, okay, the mandates or some of the restrictions are being, suspended, quote unquote. Some federal government workers had been invited back. I didn't hear a lot from the armed forces side of the house, which was one of the reasons why I was doing this again. So, and I just had this kind of feeling that there was going to be a requirement to, keep this visible to the public. I think that it was needed at that time, especially in the summer, with again, the wind seemed to go out of the sails once some of the restrictions were lifted, and then some of the, it was that typical abusive relationship thing that I think we are witnessing with this relationship we have with authorities. It was take this away, give it a little back, and then take it away again. And it was just a combination of those things. Like mainly though, the main reason why I wanted to keep doing it was to bring into the public mind and have them be aware of the fact that you had all these people now in the armed forces up to that point now had been released and labeled as unsuitable for further service.
My name is James Formosa. I served in the Canadian Armed Forces from April 2017 until the 5th of July.
I am a former military member. I served for 13 years.
I'm thankful to say that I had a spotless military record, but for one thing. My one problem is that I refused to follow a particular order. As both officers and non-commissioned members of the armed forces, we have a moral duty and a responsibility not to follow or to refuse to comply with orders that we have reason to believe are manifestly unlawful.
I got kicked out of the military 5F because I did not want to take this vaccine.
I was released 5F from the Canadian Forces, which means unsuitable for further service.
Because they, were like me. They had this issue with either A, the vaccine, or B, the policy behind it. And I was, a little bit of more concerned with the abuse of authority, the rapidity in which this policy was put into place, the lack of kind of foresight and safety precautions that should have been considered. So all of those things led me to this decision. And
now, do you feel those considerations are more standard in other parts of the armed forces, and your best interest is in mind all the way to this particular situation?
Absolutely. This was what I felt so jarring about the policy being put into place, because typically, so I'll give you an example. If I could speak to one person, and that's just, I'm using this as an example, who has been injured by this product. If this had been a piece of equipment, or say a batch of ammunition, or something else that we needed to consume, like a ration pack, for example, that would have been taken out of the system.
Okay, they would have removed it.
Exactly.
On that level of threat to your personal safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to see it not applied to this, it just, again, this was something I felt was incongruous to what I had witnessed before in the armed forces. Typically there's a fairly robust, maybe too much in some cases when it comes to procurement of equipment and other things. There's this process that it has to be gone through to make sure that the products are safe to use.
Your rank in the military is a warrant officer. Mm-hmm. Would you just give us a little explanation on what that rank is? That's not an officer rank, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's called an NCM, or a non-commissioned member, or a non-commissioned officer, if you will. But typically, because we're not officers and to avoid the confusion, we're called NCM. So non-commissioned member. The difference between a commissioned member and a non-commissioned member is that on that one side you have the officer class, and they are commissioned because they have been given I can't remember the exact verbiage, a writ by the Queen to act in these leadership capacities. And then the non-commissioned members are people like myself. At the warrant officer level, I would describe it as being a middle manager, frequently tasked to upper middle management positions or specialty positions. And you're the anyway, to kind of give you an example, we're the seasoned vet, behind the younger officers at a platoon level, like in an infantry platoon. Go back to your
field experience and experience in the forces is a little bit of a maybe a mentor or a guide to some of the less experienced officers, and of course a leader and an example to those that are coming up after.
Exactly. And so this is the absurdity of the times we're living in. I should be training troops right now to survive in the woods instead of being out here and
surviving in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean. The warrant officer is typically at the platoon level or at a company level. In an infantry battalion, you're the 2IC. If the platoon commander is unable to fill his duty, then the platoon 2IC, which is typically a warrant officer, would do that. Or you're doing some other specialty job like company quartermaster, or working as a quartermaster, or you have some other specialty qualifications that allow you to move into different fields.
Okay, so, and just going on to the topic of how you've made it through this.
This again is a matter of teamwork, and again, like, so I have Christian helping me with that aspect of management, and in any good organization you have a command team, right? And with this group here, there's the level of understanding that they have about what needs to be done, the professionalism they display, I think the empathy that they have for what is going on with me, that helps deal with that a lot, right? Like they're there for me. I know they're there for me in the same way I'm there for them, right? So that helps mitigate a lot of that. I mean, it's still the strain is enormous, but I mean, I spent 28 years in the armed forces, I was doing some pretty different. I was in different places, experienced a number of different things. So I mean, after a while, you get to you develop a set of tools that help you manage these things.
You've been speaking with members of parliament, you've been speaking with high-ranking members of the armed forces. What's been your take back from them?
Okay, so to address the last one, I haven't really been speaking to any high-ranking members of the armed forces. So
okay,
I'll get
please
to that
forgive
in a
me.
second. No, it would be a misconception that anybody could have just because of why I still am a member of the armed forces. But the fact is that they will not address this issue, I don't think, with me anyway. So to speak to the other part, yes, we have had these conversations with members of parliament, continue to have them as a matter of fact, and it's encouraging because what happened, like I said, on the 22nd was that people were able to see a process working.
I have met thousands of people in my journey from Vancouver to Ottawa, and a lot of them have lost hope. They feel lost, they're angry. They've lost faith in the system. So what's to be done? Well, we already started something. Not that long ago, I was able to have a meeting with members of parliament, and I did that meeting with your help.
Like it was those people. Like, I mean, it took effort, it took determination, and it took persistence and dedication. But with the help of the Canadian people that we met, and others, like even out here, this is one of the reasons why we're in the Maritimes in Quebec, because it was the support we got. Those people reaching out to their authorities, to their members of parliament. That's why that meeting was able to happen. I didn't expect them to flip a switch, but I think what was more important was that meeting happened. And it was because I asked them, and then people helped me.
Do you feel you've been respected by the people you've talked to there in government?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, there's a complicated dynamic there. There's this ebb and flow of political power. There's the emotional hot button issues that typically take over most of the conversations. There's party politics. There's the effect that the media has on conversations. So within having said all of that, I think that ultimately dependent on who I'm speaking to, there has either been a how do I put this? No response to a lot of the requests we've made, like the entreaties, and then there's been a heartfelt and a warm response by those that have understood fully what this is all about, the suffering that has been caused and continues to happen, and more importantly, it's the damage that's been done to the individual in the armed forces, the institution as a whole.
So I was already writing letters to my chain of command, warning them about the upcoming segregation and discrimination that we were going to face in the forces.
And they just kicked me out without ever, they segregated me. They They left me by myself for 6 months. They didn't give me informed consent.
And my concerns, of course, were met with either deaf ears or outright antagonism.
They treated me like a piece of garbage after serving my country for 13 years.
Instead of any sort of direct response coming to my endless emails, instead emails were rather given out by some of my immediate superiors to my leadership in my battery, letting them know that there were certain people with unacceptable views. This is going to start sounding familiar.
So I don't know, I have no words.
And not just that, you know, to a greater extent, the workforce in general. Like, I mean, we have, so I'm going off track a little bit here, but just to speak to, you know, those members that I've spoken to have respected what I've had to say, and that they understand that, you know, with regards to, say, nursing, for example, and this is something they have told me, you know, we have a shortage of nurses, yet there's nurses out there, they're just not able to work.
Would you be okay with naming an MP that truly listened to the message that you were delivering?
Oh, I can name several. My issue with it is that I'm concerned about their reputation and the you know, the way they're trying to paint me, for example, is being used to, you know, impair the current Conservative leader. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that
So
would
to
mean,
that
like,
end, I don't think I'm comfortable with naming names, even though there will be a time ultimately when I do. But I would rather not, just because of the fact that they have work to do towards this end of the issue that I've brought into the light, and I don't want to have their efforts hampered by, like, you know, some people trying to drag them down because they were associated with me, even though I haven't done anything wrong.
Is there anything you'd like to add for your trip, just about your trip since going out east and then coming back to here? Has anything major happened for you guys?
Well, it's been a grind, especially with regards to, you know, fending off these attacks. Like, I would say that it has been a really memorable, remarkable experience and a good trip. The support we have received on the ground from, you know, Newfoundland up to this point has been amazing. I think that, you know, there's a number of folks in this area who are probably not very aware of what we're doing because of, like, the kind of media blackout. You know, to be able to go and do this and experience the Maritimes and meet with people and have come in contact with supporters and have these kind of face-to-face discussions, go out and be able to have presentations and tell them why I am doing this. It has been a memorable, remarkable thing, and I think I can speak on behalf of the team here when I say we're really, you know, quite lucky in a way. You know, despite the circumstances that's brought us here. Like, I mean, we're seeing Canada in a way that is few people have ever seen it. You know, kind of slow motion. So there's that, but you know, the what I have seen is what is unfortunate is the biased corporate media in this country that do everything they can do to, you know, ensure that there is this us versus them mentality. It's really, that is something I kind of expected, but to experience it firsthand and be at the center of it is it was a body blow. Let me put it that way. But having said that, I'd like to address the issue of, like, this is why I think that this corporate media structure is there to specifically exacerbate this divide, you know, by this use of language, and the labeling and the half-truths and the misinformation. And furthermore, I think it's dangerous because the way that they are able to twist these opinions, or you know, twist people's minds with these opinions and get them so filled with negative feeling that, you know, they're gonna do their own name calling and lashing out. So that has been something that has been revealed to me in a way that I had never, you know, imagined, I would say. So that is the kind of counterbalance. All of this is this And again, it's I didn't do this to be famous or to do, to get recognition. This was just about raising this issue and speaking out about something that was blatantly wrong as far as I could see. However, it was going to take some notice, and I think folks like yourself and other independents who are able to give us this time to have these conversations and put them online, because it's not there. You're not getting it from the corporate legacy media, as we call it, traditional media, are engaged in this kind of shadow censorship, if you will, just because they won't speak to the issue or address it in any way, and the stranglehold they have on the information space is evident, I would say. This is one of the reasons why we continue to do that. So go back to kind of what you were saying, we decided to resume marching because of the feedback we've gotten from folks. They have said to us frequently, this is something important to me, this is giving us hope, and so forth. And we're happy about that. We continue to do it for as long as possible, but getting into Ontario soon, they're going to have to prepare themselves for this is going to be over. Like for Christian and I, we've been doing this for over 7 months, pretty much nonstop, day in and day out. And we have lives to live too. So
absolutely.
And what I would say to that, just to say to folks, this has been an overwhelmingly, despite what I was speaking to with the media aspect, it still has been an overwhelmingly positive experience, and I think they need to look at the whole thing and use it as an example for when they need to do something going forward.
We're going to be marching into downtown. This is a peaceful event, so please conduct yourselves accordingly. Act with dignity at all times. Manage your flag. Please don't let your flag slap the person in the face behind you. Do not respond to any provocation. We understand each other. Yes, sir. We conduct ourselves with dignity, strength, and endurance at all times.
That is, constructive, and that is peaceful. In this way, the team here itself has not been given the recognition that they deserve, because this is not just one person out marching. There's 12 of us here, and behind the scenes they're making these contacts with members of parliament, media outlets, emailing, helping sell t-shirts. They're driving the bus and the safety car and making meals. This is what I think folks need to look to the example of. Nobody's getting paid, and they're all doing this because they believe this is the right thing to do, and it is. And it's something that I think when it does conclude, they can look to that example and look to how people who didn't know each other prior to February all came together and been making this happen for 7 months. And I think despite the fact that there will never probably be any proper recognition, we have made a difference, and working with others that other groups and other individuals that have done their lawsuits, that have put petitions in, that have raised awareness about this issue. People went back to work on June the 20th, and there's other developments I believe coming up at the end of this month too. But I think this is the reason, going back to January and the protests and the truckers. And all this stuff has had the effect, because if folks hadn't stepped up and done something, then where would we would be in a much worse place right now.
You're back into Ontario. Will you be passing right back through, or are you going through a different route this time?
Yeah, I think we might be taking a different route this time. This is going to be coming to an end, and at this point, Where we will end at in Ontario, I'm not entirely sure. We're looking at a couple of different locations, but it also is dependent on the conversations we're asking to have with our members of parliament and other officials. If that could potentially bring us back to Ottawa. So we're kind of at this particular point. I don't want to dash anybody's hopes or raise too many expectations, but there's that. We are open to the possibility of going back to Ottawa. Maybe not marching so much all the way there, but to have the conversations that we've been asking for with regards to, the individuals that have suffered in the armed forces and the federal government, and the damage that's been done to them and their families and the institutions.
How can the Canadian people get behind you for this last push?
I think that what needs to happen there is there's got to be an internal dialogue that they have with themselves, and then look to the examples that we have, how we conducted this thing. We kept professional, we maintained our composure, our dialogue was respectful but to the point. There's a level of patience and dedication required, and when you engage in these things, you can't just expect to these policies and stuff and mandates that are put into place, they're not going to be just turned off overnight. There's this requirement to have this commitment to making the change, and then more importantly, working with others in a way that's constructive. So it's not just what they can do for me anymore, it's what they need to do together. We all got traumatized, I think, at the beginning of this thing. In a way, we saw these, under the umbrella of this pandemic thing. Everybody was, shocked and afraid, and they were confused and didn't know what to do. You look to the examples, and then you acquire, the courage, and you speak to others, and you educate yourself, and you take action, and the action that is required to bring about the type of change that we need comes from the bottom up. That's where I kind of speak to, we have these mechanisms in place at the national and provincial level. There's authority and systems, and there's bureaucracies and administrations, and within all of those things, there's plenty of room for people to short-circuit their conscience, right? It's press a button, put a policy into place. Now it's not my problem. I'm just enforcing it because those are the rules. That's the orders. Just following the policy. There's days when it swings back and forth, but typically, I'm steering to more optimism about what's happening. More people, like I said, it's not about people waking up. We're trying to forcefully wake somebody up. Sometimes you just have to be patient and let them come to the realizations on their own while you work on your piece.
So I gotta ask, what's the story behind the red hat? The thing's been on you this whole trip. Does that come from somewhere?
My signature hat. No, I had it sitting at home, and I was gonna need a hat, and so I have it, put it on when I started marching, and I figured, okay, well, I'm gonna need to be recognized, and there's gonna be something made out of this probably in some way, shape, or form. So that's why I kind of typically stuck to the, this is a jacket I could have used at work too. There was the hat I had, I put it on, and that was it. I didn't want to, I'm not, really into sports that much, and I didn't really have any sports related hats. I didn't really want to go down that road anyway, just, so. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I would say thank you for the opportunity to have the interview, and we actually got to get going because
I really appreciate it. This is the second time you've seen me at lunch while you're in the middle of your day, and I can't thank you enough for stopping everything you're doing, and it's obviously important work to sit down and again talk to just a YouTuber from Canada. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, James.
Who's on translator duty?
I'll translate.
Okay then. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
It is the end of the day, day 198.
C'est la fin de la journée 198.
And we are have just passed through the picturesque town of Saint Andre.
On vient juste de passer la belle ville de Saint-André.
And now we are in a picturesque parking lot.
Et là, on est un beau parking lot.
Good day today, great weather, great place to be here in Quebec. And we continue our journey towards Quebec City. Thank you for joining us on our journey. And thank you to all my guests who marched with us today. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. On est d'une belle ville. On va se rendre à Québec bien vite. Et c'est une belle journée. La température elle nous a bien aidé aujourd'hui. Merci bien.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Woo! Good job,
Good
guys.
job.
Yay!
James and his crew, such an inspiration. So humble, so loving. Yeah.
We'll drive a million miles to go with him,
Yep.
be with him, to march with him. And we've come a long ways and we'll keep going.
Yep.
For sure. Thanks.
Okay. Alrighty. We're going to head back.
We conduct ourselves with dignity, strength, and endurance at all times.